Hi my friends, and welcome to Homestead Tessie. Today you find me in my pantry. We got a bunch of northern beans because today we're going to can baked beans with bacon. So stay tuned. These are black beans from 2016, and I had these in Mylar bags on top. So this kind of stuff is going to be going into my other pantry I make here in a couple weeks. And all this is rice. But what I'm really getting at is this blue tub here. And let's see what's inside here, because I'm thinking that I have beans, and I do. So we're going to use up these beans first. I'm going to look at the date on these beans, and we're going to use these up. So let's get Great Northern beans are what I like. I like the Great Northern beans for baked beans. I have a lot of navy beans too. And these are kidney beans. But for our cheat meal Monday, here I have some rice blends. So we're going to make a couple of these just simply because I want to use them up. So we're going to have our shredded chicken and we'll have some of this rice. But I'm just looking to see if I have any more beans. And these look to me like northern beans too. So we're going to get all these beans because I know I bought these quite a while ago. So we're going to get all these beans up. Alright, so that's all of our older stock. There's actually another one. Okay, we're going to use them. Alright, let's go put our beans back, and maybe we have some room to put some other stuff. Let's see if I can put some other stuff in here. Alright, so that's going to be good for now. So now we have our northern beans for our baked beans. Each kettle holds 14 cups of beans that were soaked overnight. So I am doing 28 cups of beans in all. So what we're going to do is they're going to cook for 40 minutes. So we're going to cook these beans for 40 minutes, and then we're going to mix them with this stuff, and we are going to can them. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Homestead Tessie. Today I'm up really early because we are going to make baked beans. Now, this video is going to be very detailed, so I'm going to try to explain it the best that I possibly can. And we're going to start out with the recipe. And the recipe only makes 4 quarts of baked beans. So what I do is I'm actually quadrupling this recipe because I'm actually going to be making 14 quarts of baked beans. Because it is so technical in how I am doing it with the quadrupling, I'm going to let you quadruple it if you'd like on your own. But I'm just going to share with you the recipe that is for the 4 quarts. So take a pen and paper down, and we are going to start with the small recipe. And if you're interested in making 14 quarts like I am, I will just verbally tell you exactly how many cups and this and that. When I do my baked beans, I only do them either once or twice a year. So I make a whole bunch at one time because I have 2 canners. But for those of you who do not have big canners or don't want to make that many, this is the recipe. And this is my recipe that I have been using for many years. I wish I could give credit for the person who did come up with the recipe. I found it many years ago online. I have no idea where I got it, but this is what I use. It's called Baked Beans to Can. It's 4 cups of navy beans, 1/2 pound of pork or bacon cut in small pieces raw, 4 teaspoons of salt, 4 tablespoons of molasses, 6 teaspoons of prepared mustard, 1½ cups of ketchup, 6 tablespoons of brown sugar, 2 cups of chopped onion. And this is what you do. You wash the beans the day before, and you cover the beans with fresh water and soak overnight. And that's what we did. You boil your beans in the same water for 45 minutes. you drain your beans and add, saving 2 cups of the water that your beans were boiled in. So you drain your beans and you keep 2 cups of the water that they were boiled in and you add them to the beans. And the rest is basically you dump all of the ingredients in your beans. And this recipe says quarts for 60 minutes, but I do not agree with that. I do my quarts for 90 minutes because we are adding bacon. Now, I am doing it times 8. So, for those of you who really want to see exactly what I did, I'm just going to read off to you my equivalents. 14 quarts of baked beans is 28 cups of beans, 14 cups in each kettle. I have 2 packages of bacon because bacon is expensive and that's all I have. 1/4 cup of salt per kettle. 1 cup of molasses per kettle. 1/2 cup of prepared mustard per kettle. 5 cups of ketchup per kettle. 1½ cups of brown sugar per kettle. And 7 cups of water. That was the water that your beans were boiled in per kettle. The water is already in the beans. The beans have been cooked for 45 minutes. And so now we're going to add the other ingredients. So let me get all of my stuff here together. And we're going to start. So the first thing I always like to do is I like to start with the salt. So we're going to add 1/4 cup of salt to both kettles. This is the 14-quart recipe. If you're making a smaller amount, please go to the first recipe that I shared. Now, these measurements do not really have to be exact either. Some people say that seems like a lot of sweetener. Other people say it's not enough. It's all depending on your likeness. What I do is when I'm done mixing them up, I will just taste a little bit of the liquid, the mustard, the ketchup liquid part, and then I will see if that tastes sweet enough for me. Alright, so I added the salt, and the next thing we're going to add is 1 cup of molasses each. I always use up my old stock first, so make sure you always use up your older stock first before you add the newer stock. The molasses is what makes it really, really good. This is going to be a very old-fashioned baked bean recipe. And when you're doing the amount that I am, you want to make sure that you wrote it down correctly. Okay, so we have 1/2 cup of mustard each. It's so simple. It is really extremely simple. It's just when you're making a large amount like that, and like I said, I'm working really early this morning because it's supposed to be really hot, and I got to do this before the heat sets in. Because when you're pressure canning something for 90 minutes, it produces a lot of heat. And at this point, I do not have any kind of electricity, any kind of stove top that I could actually run the pressure canners out in the canning garage. I would love to do that, but that's next year's project. So 5 cups of ketchup per. The ketchup is your real base, and that is what you're going to be. That's the real base of your flavor. So I'm hoping this number 10 can is enough. I got this number 10 can a long time ago at the discount grocery store for $4, which was a really good deal. So I'm really happy that I was able to get that, because I knew that this is coming up, these baked beans. Now this is 4 cups, what I'm doing now. And I think I'm going to be just right, because this is 4 cups and I think I have enough. I have to get my spatula and get the rest of that. But baked beans are one of my favorite things to can. Because the pressure canner is actually going to be doing all the cooking of them. So we're just going to measure like that. And I will pan my camera so you can see it a little better when I'm done here. So we have the ketchup. Now we have to do the brown sugar. And 1½ cups of brown sugar. The 1½ cups of brown sugar is a little bit, if I remember right, it's a little bit not as sweet. So I'm going to go with 2 cups. And you can see I'm dumping. I'm just totally dumping. I'm not packing it down. Because I've been doing this for so many years, it's just second nature to me. So a lot of times you're going to see me cooking and I'm just going to be dumping stuff in. We try to use the equivalents fairly accurate, but it's not a science. So I use 2 cups of brown sugar for both of them. I'm just going to clean that out. Alright, so now we've got to get our bacon. Now, let me get all of my dirty dishes away. We are done with the liquid part. Let me make sure, let me go over it and make sure first. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Alright, I got everything in here. Basically, it's ketchup, mustard, molasses, and salt and sugar. So, now the bacon is an expense. I have done a lot of baked beans without the bacon. You do not have to have the bacon. But with everything, bacon makes things so much better. And I forgot the onion. Did I even repeat that on here? It is 2 cups of onion. It's 2 cups of onion for the small recipe, but I only have a certain amount of onions, so I'm throwing them in. You don't need to have the onions either. But if you have them, use them because it makes them really good. And if you feel like I'm rushing a little bit, I am kind of, because I really want to get this done. Because it's already 90-some degrees. I'm really hot, and I know it's going to just get unbearable here real soon. So, one thing you want to do when you are canning, the day before, have everything ready. Have your jars washed. Have everything ready to go. Because if you have everything ready to go, it makes things so much easier. And then I wait to stir everything until everything is in the kettles. So I'm not even measuring. I'm just putting the onions in. Because I don't have as many as what they actually call for. So, but I'm still at the end of my zero spend. And so I'm using what I have. Alright, see the ends that are really fatty, I'm not even adding that. I'm not even adding that fat. Because I don't like it being too greasy. So all I do is take a really sharp pair of scissors and we're just going to cut 1 package per kettle. And The bacon adds the flavor. You should try to separate them a little bit, like that, so you don't get a whole one big lump. This bacon is pretty fatty because it is the cheapest bacon they had. You can do turkey bacon. Turkey bacon works really good as well. This was actually $3. It was really cheap on sale, so I just got this kind. The turkey bacon, of course, doesn't have the flavor like regular bacon. I'm going to continue to cut up this bacon, and when I'm done, I'm going to pan and show you the camera, and then we're going to fill the jars, and then that's it. Alright, I'm starting to fill up my jars, and I want to show you all something. Now, a lot of you would say, well, this seems like a lot of liquid. But what you have to understand is you only parboiled your beans. So that means your beans are not totally cooked. I'm going to hold this up and show you. This is what it looks like. It's a lot of liquid on. But when you can your beans for 90 minutes, these beans are going to soak up a lot of liquid. And also, the longer your beans are sitting in the jar on the shelf, the more liquid they're going to absorb. I've had people complain saying that their beans turned out like bricks and they couldn't get them out of their jar. That is because you're not adding enough of liquid. So add exactly the amount of liquid that it calls for in this recipe, because this will get your beans perfect. Now this is going to do me, this is going to give me, I forgot, this is going to give me a lot more than 14 quarts. I think this is going to give me almost 28 quarts, if I remember right. I only do this once a year, so it's kind of hard to remember. But I see already this is giving me a lot more, so I'm going to actually be doing 28 quarts of these beans. And you want to take your, wherever you're pouring your beans, you want to get in the bottom of the pot, because your beans want to sink to the bottom. So you want to always go to the bottom of your pot to get your beans out. So this is a lot of beans, and I know it is a lot of beans to work with. But I figured if I'm making a mess, I might as well do a large amount at one time. And I always have my beans to the neckline, like that. So that's what I gauge my beans on. Now this one's a little on the full side, so we'll pour a little out. I'm going to continue, and I'm going to jar up all of these beans, and then I'll show you how many beans I actually got, and then we will put the lids on, and I'll start canning. So this is going to be an all morning, mid-afternoon canning, because I'm going to have 4 canners, so that means I'm going to have to, when the first batch is done, I'm going to have to do it all over for the second batch. Alright, I have 2 canner full loads ready, and these are only half my beans. So this will be once a year. So I'm not going to be doing this anymore this year, so I'll get about 28 quarts of beans. And I think I have about 6 left. So this is going to be a year's worth of baked beans. So while these are getting ready to go in the pressure canner, then I'm going to go and I'm going to jar up the other ones. And then I'm going to share with you a little story. Since it was a year ago since I made baked beans, I totally forgot how many beans this makes. This makes 28 quarts. Well, I went out and I have exactly 28 quarts of the wide mouth jars. The wide mouth jars I use exclusively for baked beans because they're easy to get out of the jar. And isn't that something how the Lord does provide? You know, I have 28 wide mouth jars and I needed 28 of them. And that brings me to a little story. Today, I said to the Lord, boy, it would be nice if I would have some wide mouth jar lids. Because wide mouth jar lids is something I don't buy a lot, which I should keep them on hand. But they're relatively expensive compared to the regular mouth lids. And I was afraid I wasn't going to have enough for my beans. And it was 2 days ago, and I wasn't going anywhere yesterday, and I just thought, well, I'll use what I have. And I thought, well, maybe I had 1 pack, and I think I could found another pack. So I knew I would be really short, but I wasn't sure how short, and I was really busy, and yesterday I got a package in the mail, and it came from the same woman who gave me that large box of things. And she told me a little story. She said, Tessie, I was reaching for canning lids the other day, and for some reason she said that she pulled out the wide mouth lid boxes. And she said, who am I to send these to? And she says, the Lord said to send them to me. And that is exactly what I needed. And I needed them, and they came yesterday, and today I'm using them, and I'm going to be canning with them. So, you know, it is really, really special when you see things like that happen. You know, that it's just as simple as a canning lid, and that our Lord does provide for us. You've seen in my canning garage that I have quite a few jars, but believe it or not, every single one of those canning jars are going to be used up by the end of the fall. So 28 jars, while it may look a lot sitting on the shelf, it really isn't that many. And I'm using every single one of these jars, and I'm really thankful that I had enough. So I'm going to get filling up my second batch. So I have 2 canners full already. And I'm hoping that I will have even some left that I can actually make them for supper tonight, which I think I will. Alright, so we got 1 kettle done. All of that time and work, and that was 1 kettle. And I should have probably only just made 1 kettle, but while I'm doing it, I might as well do it all. I totally forgot last year that I actually did this large portion, but I'm really glad for it. So 1 kettle gave me 16 quarts, which is about right. That's actually the equivalent of what they said. I don't know why I was thinking that it would only give, I don't know what I was thinking. Honestly, I'm the kind of person that kind of just goes with the flow, and sometimes it gets a little hectic in here, but I started really early, and I'm so thankful I did. So I'm going to go ahead and fill up the rest of these jars, and then I will get back to you when the first batch is done and they are processing. So I hope you try this recipe. I know a lot of you girls do. A lot of you girls try the recipes that I use, and I've never had a complaint yet. Nobody's ever said they didn't like it. So I'm really, really blessed, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll show you the end result of this baked bean canning day. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow.